So we're here in this whole PlayStation conversation. Apparently, some people still think, somewhere somehow, PlayStation still has or some of a lifeline in this whole conversation, not realizing that no, they are pretty much no longer on the back foot, but they're sitting on their butts right now because they've been knocked down by Xbox and the way it positioned itself, by the way it now has content delivery, and even by the way PlayStation themselves say that Xbox is a threat to their business. This is very important. If you go from this perspective and say, okay, how do people see Xbox versus how does PlayStation, its biggest, most aggressive competitor, see PlayStation, it will give you a good picture of what's going on both sides. And it will also give you what I think is a better foundation to be able to make your claims. I'll be seeing these comments that say, how is Xbox winning? I don't have anything to add to that other than I'm just pointing out what PlayStation has said, which is that Xbox has leapfrogged them. This is how we're going to always start these conversations. Now, to that, I saw an audience member bring up a concern. They said something about probably not doing due diligence and looking at what Sony had stated in its statement. They said this in my last video. Okay, I guess you're going to ignore the fact that this year, Sony and PlayStation said this generation is the most profitable in the history of Sony, and that PlayStation 5 has been profitable for the longest time, and they broke down the numbers and showed everybody. It's not just revenue, but profit. Xbox, on the other hand, have never shown profit numbers. Sure, they'll show percentages, and we all know they're only making revenue because if Activision Blizzard, you break it down, Xbox has only seen 8% increase. Not only that, they said that they're going to expect a lot of losses next year with these numbers. The console sales are down for Xbox after they put out AAA exclusives. Xbox is in huge trouble. Their platform is dying and cannot be ignored in its facts. Now, I made a video to respond to this, and I actually went back and pointed out to the document to say, yo, you're looking at the Xbox console wrong. You're not looking at it how PlayStation has said to look at it. And I went on my way. However, I saw this same individual on Destin's video. One of my audience members said, hey man, Destin put out a video. You need to go watch it. So I went to watch Destin's video. And as I'm scrolling through Destin's comment section, look at the profile picture. It's got somebody with jacked, ripped arms. They say, Destin, I see you're not doing your research again. Remember, Sony reported this generation alone has been the most profitable in the history of Sony. PlayStation has had the most exclusives on their console this year, which are third-party exclusives, and they are probably going to have 3 Game of the Year nominations for their console exclusives. So I said, maybe there is something that I'm missing. So I went and looked for this report, which was an IGN report written by Rebecca Valentine. So I said, all right, let me go ahead and figure out what the heck this person is talking about so that it may not be that I'm missing something, because not only are they trying to point this out to me, they're also pointing it out to Destin. So I read what Rebecca had said, and this was in May of 2024. It's been updated. I guess we don't know what the update is until we get to the end of the article, but I have read the article. So this says the PlayStation 5 generation is officially the most profitable console generation to date, according to new data shared by the company. Interesting. This comes from the company's Game and Network Services business segment meeting slides presentation, which were shared today following the company's earnings reports 2 weeks ago. In the presentation, Sony revealed that the PS5 generation has brought in $106 billion in sales since launch, outpacing every past console at the same point in its generation. Wow. I was like, man, where are these reports? However, when you go back to the article, you say Sony says PlayStation 5 generation is its most profitable console generation to date, but Rebecca Valentine goes ahead and puts this little tag here, but half of current players are still playing on PlayStation 4. So they do the chart. PS4 generation and PS5 generation, and you're going to see the numbers. Let's keep going, though. Let's stick with some asterisks on that figure real quick, though. First off, Sony reports that the PS4 generation brought in a total of $107 billion in sales, which is obviously more than $106 billion. But the PS4 generation is taking as a whole from fiscal 2013 through 2019 and includes 3 more years than the PS5 generation, which spans from fiscal 2020 to fiscal 2023, 4 years into the PS4's life cycle. It was still well behind where the PS5 is now, and the PS5 is at pace to easily surpass the PS4 generation's total sales sometime this year. It's also worth noting that these dollar amounts are total sales over the course of the console generation, not a reflection of specific hardware or game sales. The, in quotes, PS5 generation encompasses not just the PS5 itself, but everything the business is doing during this generation, including PS4 sales and game releases during this period. So take it all with the grain of salt it merits. So someone is running all over this place, actually citing this data and saying that PlayStation has reported profitability for the PS5 generation, not paying attention to the caveats that this is actually pulling in data, metrics from the entire business as a whole into this whole thing. But it's not shocking that the PS5 generation has been so lucrative for Sony. Even with the asterisk, the PS5 has sold 56 million units to date, though the PS4 has outsold it significantly, 117 million units at the last count. The PS5 was more expensive at launch than the PS4, and continued software spend throughout the shared life cycle of both has helped Sony's current console generation only grow in dollar sales, even if console adoption is a little slow. Sony reports both the PS4 and PS5 currently boast 49 million active console users per month. So at this time, this data set had a lot of caveats. So when we're looking at it all, it's pretty much a thing to go ahead and just throw some numbers in there. We don't know how the numbers are actually split, or we don't know how they're actually properly segmented. But again, the writers and the people who are reporting, or I guess this writer who is reporting this, said to take it with a grain of salt. And you'd have to pretty much get more information and more data to be able to come to better conclusions as to what this is. The reality is, I think a lot of our fellow PlayStation fanboys are running all over the place, and they're pretty much trying to cite data that they probably don't understand and use it as some kind of a, I don't know what it is, maybe some kind of a hope builder about what PlayStation currently is. But the reality is, you see this document here? It wasn't supposed to be unveiled to investors. I think this was an internal document. We were never supposed to see this document. And it is so damning because what it looks like is that just went through investor speak more than anything else as to what PlayStation's reality actually is. So in looking further and digging deeper, I think this audience member needs to pretty much go back and take a closer look as to these financials. This was also around the time that PlayStation had gone ahead to reduce its forecast of the number of consoles that it would sell, which also wiped out a lot of its valuation from under it. PlayStation has been in a very strange place financially all year, and I think because of, these headlines and these little, caveats underneath them, like grain of salt on the fourth paragraph, and, the little thing that says, but 45% are still on PlayStation or whatever it is that was written there, people are not digging deep enough into the story and are running with headlines that they've not fully digested the consequences. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. Appreciate you so much. We'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.